Hello everyone, welcome to Caspersight Storytime. Before we get into the short story, I just want to say a massive thank you to the people in comments on my last video that mentioned that I was saying the location of this book incorrectly. It is in fact Iowa, or if you're American, Lower. Today we're going to be looking at this book again, Ghostly Tales of Lower. I'm going to keep on calling it Lower because 40% of my subscriber base are Americans, and we started off this series as referring to Iowa as Lower, so I'll carry on for the American viewers. Just not to confuse people. So our short story for today is called The Cellar Witch. The Cellar Witch. Clayton County in northeast Lower was settled largely by German immigrants. Most of these were thrifty, hard-working, sensible farmers from the old country. But even these practical folks had ghostly stories. A young lady and her parents had come to America when she was a small child. As she grew older, Clara wanted to be out on her own more. Clara's mother had warned her several times not to dawdle on her way to and from town. Her mother specifically warned Clara and her sisters to stay away from a certain house in the town, vacant now but rumoured to have been lived in by a witch. She secretly was just a little scared, but enjoyed both the tiny shiver of fear and the knowledge of her disobedience. One cool fall day, Clara's parents sent her to town close to chore time to get various things from the general store. There were several customers ahead of her, and she got to talking to Otto, a neighbour boy about her age. When she finally picked up her packages and loaded them into the buggy, the sun was just starting to drop behind the heavily wooded hillside. She set the horse to an easy trot and headed for home. Without her really planning it, she was suddenly near the house. The big two-story home had many windows, and the last rays of the sun reflected a wavy red in the handmade glass panes. Brush obscured the porch to one side, but no brush or grass grew around the front of the house. Clara could clearly see the row of basement windows, and the outside, almost flat entrance leading down into the limestone foundation. Some force made Clara stop the buggy and get out. The wind picked up, and the horse was restless, stamping and whining. An old iron fence with a series of spike tops surrounded the house. Clara approached slowly, eyes fastened on the shining red windows, especially the lower basement windows, turning from red to black as the sun continued to drop. Her hand touched the gate, which looked rusty and felt very cold. It swung open smoothly and quietly, no sound coming from the hinges. Clara hesitated. Everything she knew and believed told her to stop, but she seemed unable to control her body. She walked through towards the basement door. Vaguely she could hear the horse running away. She stood above the basement entrance and closed her eyes. In the instant, she knew if she lifted the door to the basement, she would never come back. Without warning, a strong arm pulled her back, dragging her away from the house. She felt as if pulled in two, a force pulling her back to the house and a powerful body pulling her away. The body yelled several times, and then the force let go. When she opened her eyes, she was on the street again, the gate shut, the house completely dark, and the wind blowing stronger still, like the beginnings of the tornado they had had last year. Looking up, Clara saw Otto kneeling beside her. Speaking in German, he asked her if she was hurt. She slowly shook her head from side to side. "Why did you come? What happened?" she asked. Looking less frightened, Otto spoke in English this time. I was following you to be sure you had come home safely. When your horse ran past me, I knew you had trouble. I came to look and found standing here, about to go in. Why were you here? It is a dangerous place for you." Clara looked down, embarrassed. "I don't really know. I've driven by here before, and I just found myself here." "Do you know the story about the witch?" Otto asked. "I know my parents told me to stay away, and said that there was a witch who used to live here." "Come to my wagon. I will tell you the story." Otto helped her stand up and walked her to his wagon. Once there, he resumed the story. "The woman who lived here before was dreadfully afraid to die. My parents say she was the witch. But even witches can die. She wanted to live forever. But the only way she could keep on living was to find another body, since hers was worn out and old." Clara shuddered. "Is she still there?" Otto looked at her solemnly and continued. "Many years ago, she did finally die. Since then, she had been looking for her body. She tried to lure young girls to her basement. If she can get a young girl to come to her basement, she will take her body and be young again. That is why parents tell their daughters to stay away. I could help you because she doesn't want men." Clara knew the reason for her feeling now, the feeling that told her if she went into the basement, she would be lost forever. She smiled weakly at Otto as she said, "Let's go home. I promise I will never come here again." Thank you so much for listening to another short story from Ghostly Tales of Lower. I hope you come back to listen to the next story. And please, if you did like this video, leave a comment, leave a little thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next short story.